Okay, welcome everybody out. And last week we talked about the most important step in fall to winter garden soil prep. Um, Anybody want to talk about anything in that arena? I suspect nobody's done anything in their gardens in the last week.
I've been watering mine.
Me too.
Just letting it fade away.
Yep.
Liz was telling me we needed some sweet potatoes for dinner tonight, and I said, "Well, I'm not interested in going out there in that mud hole and pulling them out." But anyway,
Yeah, I don't know what that does to end of crop sweet potatoes. Would they rot in the ground?
I got a feeling I better get them out pretty soon.
Yeah, I wonder.
I mean, mine are in raised beds, so they're about as high and dry as they can get, but it's not saying much
Dry
right
is a relative term after all this much rain has been
now.
dumped on it for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I could sit on the side of the concrete beds and plant things now, but it my feet would be kind of mushy.
Yeah, it's been wet.
It has. So let's go to the markets today. The markets were down hard today after the Powell pep rally yesterday, where the market ended up closing quite high after his little pep rally talk. And, so kind of surprising that it didn't take long to wear off. But so keep beating on this drum about have you started your diversification? If not now, then when? The last few weeks were a gift. Raise cash and diversify on up days. If we get some more, and I think we probably will. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see the S&P 500, double or triple top at 6,000 before things go south. But they're going to do their best to prop things up and not report bad news, like North Carolina. So gold was flat today, kind of at its top at 2663. Goldbacks were up about 4 cents over last week at 528. Silver was pretty much flat today at 31.39, and the gold silver ratio is back up to 85. It was 83 last week. So it's kind of surprising.
So Bill and I learned something interesting just a couple of days ago, that Costco sells gold and silver bars.
I knew about the gold. I didn't know about the silver.
Yeah, right now the silver is out of stock, but I did find where they were selling 21-ounce coins through Costco that you could buy. And we had never even thought of Costco as a source for purchasing metals, right? But evidently some sell it, some don't, and some you can buy online. But the only silver I could find was coins online through Costco.
Yeah, apparently they have literally sold a ton of gold.
Yeah, so gold, they were 3 different sizes. Sorry, I don't remember what the weight was on it, but it was 3 different gold bars, different weights, that they had in stock that they could sell and send you.
They I was on their website the other day and I just happened to check that, and they didn't seem to have them at the time. But
Yeah, I just looked yesterday. I was out there on Costco yesterday,
mhm.
just looking, just curious, right, of what they had. I'm not sure though what you do when you have like an ounce of gold. Obviously it's not like you can like nick off the corner and give it to a neighbor for a loaf of bread,
Yeah,
right?
that's
It's so outpriced.
that's what makes goldbacks kind of nice, because you can get them down to right at this moment $5.28 worth of purchasing power per transaction. So not quite as good as a silver dime before 1965, which gets you down to I guess about $3 purchasing power at the price of
Uh-huh.
silver right now. But anyway, so it gives you pretty good granularity, goldbacks or silver dimes, if you needed to barter with something besides dollars.
Yeah, and that's another tricky thing though, is I don't have a way to test if somebody's really giving me a true silver dime,
Yeah, but
right?
it's not a big deal at $3, but compared to some things, compared to having an ounce of gold
Amen.
at $3,000, you know.
Yeah.
So it's pretty safe. I mean, dimes aren't worth counterfeiting. I'll put it that way.
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised what some people think is worth counterfeiting.
Oh, they are definitely counterfeiting the silver rounds, the 1 ounce rounds. So it's plating them. So
Uh-huh.
so anyway, the other thing that's a possibility that should not be correlated with the stock market would be tilt and zeros, and that's of course dependent on somebody buying all these new treasury debt that they're going to issue. Um, that could potentially be a problem, but normally in a recession or depression, government bonds are the way to go and have been, since the Great Depression. So have to I say diversify, but they were up today, and they pulled back quite a bit. But the theory on these is you would they pay like 3.5% dividend monthly for, well, not monthly, I mean, year annually, but they pay it monthly for tilt anyway. You get a check or a credit every month, and you might get 20-30% capital gain on it also as interest rates come down. So that's the idea. So wheat was up today at 5.35, and I believe that's a true gift. I don't think we'll ever see $5 wheat again, but who knows? Then PDBA, which is a agricultural commodity fund, was actually down a few cents today, which kind of surprised me with wheat being up. But they have a lot of other agricultural commodities besides this wheat. And then the PDBC was up a little bit today. And that one's more precious metals, oil and gas, and uh, industrial metals, things like that. And the big surprise of the day was the industrial military complex were all up except GE. And GE was the only one that was up last week, and all the others were down. So it's GE just flip-flopped from last week to this week. What a difference a week makes. And so with everything going on in the Middle East, world peace, not this week. So that's been a good no-brainer investment, I believe, especially the XAR, if you just want one thing to cover that whole industrial military complex. You have a biblical hint there that will do well. So U.S. oil was up over $72 today, just about the time I went short on it yesterday. So that would tend to, I suppose that's dependent on the war also. And then there's WES, which pays a 9% dividend with 44% insider owned. I really like that one. Another thing that could pay you a good dividend check, get you through a recession, hopefully. Bitcoin was down below 61,000 today. And I brought up last week that BITS, which is an ETF that invests in Bitcoin and blockchain companies. And it pays 11% dividend while you're waiting on Bitcoin to go up. So that's kind of interesting, I thought. I like that better than holding Bitcoin personally. So BTI is the opposite of BITS. It's a short against Bitcoin. And that one pays a 4% dividend if you can catch it right. So I think this is a good time to do some dollar cost averaging on BITS or Bitcoin. And then we've talked about before the state of Wisconsin investing in Bitcoin ETFs, and then we got Ethereum with Bitcoin ETFs, and they have the same funds. They have ETF that's ETH and ETHD if you want to go short. So all the options there. You don't have to know anything about crypto or Bitcoin. Just have a brokerage account. And last week we talked about several companies that were announced layoffs. And I'm not going to beat that horse anymore, but yeah, really might already be in a recession. Do you think? Just like a water plan, I think everyone should have an unemployment plan, that you can execute on a moment's notice, because sometimes that's all the notice you get. So what would you do? Just like if you didn't have water coming out of the tap, you should have a plan for that. What would you do? What would you implement if you suddenly found yourself unemployed? And, it's much better to work that out ahead of time than having to do it on the fly, kind of like when a hurricane comes in. So the other news of the day, of course, is or news of the week, I guess, is Hurricane Helene. And we'll talk more about that, but this thing is, I think the last I saw, there was 2.5 million households without electricity in the Southeast. And a lot of those people, it's going to be weeks to months before they get electricity back, which also implies running water probably for a lot of them. So think about that in your plans. And of course, the port strike started yesterday. And you may not think that's a big deal, but we import a lot of stuff. And if it's going to be stuck out on the ship, somebody's going to have some bad Christmases, which would lead to more unemployment and a lot more inflation as goods become scarce. And then we've already got a potential scarcity of goods. I saw that Lowe's was up about $3 today, and Home Depot was up $5 today. So they're expecting to do a booming business. Suspect building supplies won't be going down in price in the near future. So
You mean those roofs are going to have a problem?
they could. I think we need to go shopping Thursday if we can find the time. Anyway, war in the Middle East, of course, is not helping anything in our lives. But almost all of these things that we're talking about will certainly be inflationary. some of them will be employment negative. So what can we do this time of year? Certainly got some nice moist soil to plant trees in. It's not washing away. So still probably some time to plant a few things in the garden, although I suspect most of us won't get around to that. So maybe we can get it fixed up for spring. And we need to get those sweet potatoes dug before we board our ark. Put the bees to bed for the winter. Maybe order some seeds and trees for next year or this fall. Dawned on me, since I haven't bought one in a while, that a lot of people might ought to buy a hunting license just in case. My thoughts on that is you cover home security and a hunting rifle. It's possibly with the same weapon. And I hope everybody has gotten their iostat or potassium iodine by now. Some kelp for backup. So, has anybody done anything useful in the last week besides try to stay out of the rain?
Nothing here.
We unloaded the truck a couple of times in the rain.
And need
I'm
to
getting tired of that one.
and need to once more.
Yeah. A continuing repeating job.
Well, we did get a few supplies at Walmart the other night. We thought we had enough toilet paper, but we did get a bulk of paper towels. And I found some reasonably priced ammunition available at Walmart. .22 Magnums. And I've noticed some of the supply companies are putting primers on sale, so that must mean they have plenty of them. So that might be something to put into the alpha strategy bin, the barter items. Mushrooms are just popping up all over the place after all this rain. I seeing fairy rings all over the place, and these are elf seers. Nice tasty mushrooms, pretty easy to identify for the beginner. Pomegranates are getting ripe. About to pull the limbs off. What few we got. And chestnuts are about all molding away on us. Raining every day. We had a pretty good crop, but the livestock are going to get most of them. Before we get into that, the topic for tonight, Liz sent this to me. This looked like a great idea. If you can see it there. Liz went and bought $20 worth or 20 solar lights. I'm not sure which. Just put them in.
Those were found at the dollar store, apparently. But we've used something like that when the power's gone out before.
Yeah.
And been able to light different rooms of the house without having to light candles.
And this particular one looks like ideal for it because it's got a nice flat top. So you could just set it on a flat surface, and because it's in the dark, it's going to come on because it's going to think it's night. And so this particular one would be nice. The ones we've had.
I think what he had actually done was pulled them out of his yard, but he had holes drilled in the top of the bucket so that he could have them all together and be able to utilize them, but have them so that they would be able to be charged all at one time without having to stab them into the ground between times.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what the people who are down in North Carolina, how are they going to light their houses for however long?
And solar's not much good right now. Unfortunately, I can't keep my solar fence charger charged at all. Hopefully tomorrow we'll come back.
For sure after tomorrow.
We just have to make it through one more cloudy day.
We don't all go crazy. Let's do a share here. That's okay. That's a good one. But I'm going to do this one first. Okay, this is Billy from Permapasture Farm. Probably heard me play him before, but he's right down in the middle. He's about 20 miles outside of Asheville, I think, and the town he was going to in Tennessee is right close to where Patera from Appalachian Homestead lives. And they were both going to this town and Billy was trying to go to the town in Tennessee, but they turned him back because the road was out. But they're both in the same area, and they both had interesting stories. And when you think about this, think about the things that if we had this kind of event that you would need that these people aren't thinking about.
Permapasture's Farm. It's Saturday about 5 o'clock or so, and we're still feeling the back end of the remnants of that storm that just came through Asheville and the surrounding areas. Folks, I ain't even going to kid you. Just got back from Asheville and the surrounding areas, and it looks like Godzilla just walked all over it. I'm not kidding. Everything down by the river, I mean, it looks like downtown Baghdad. I'm not kidding, y'all. It is a complete mess. But let me back up. And the biggest reason I'm doing this video right now is because my phone, when I finally got a little bit of service, it was blowing up. Everybody I know of is texting me, so it's just easier to communicate this way. So in a nutshell, it came through and that stuff came in sideways. We got a little bit of damage to the house. Shingles missing, sheetrock damage, some water damage. This stuff was coming in sideways. But you know what? I'm standing here and Michelle's fine too. There's a whole lot of dead people out there that didn't make it on the other side of this thing. So, yeah, I'll just suck it up. It's just horrible to think about how many people died, probably unnecessarily. But anyway, as far as damage, yeah, we got some to the house, nothing we can't fix. Got some trees that fell down, but I was going to cut them down anyway. So that turned out to be a blessing. And animals are fine. Everything's fine. As far as power, this is why we prepare, y'all. This is exactly what we talk about, especially in our podcast. Permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. This is why we prepare. If you hear a little bit of noise in the background, it's one of my generators. Well, actually, two of them going right now. So we're prepared in that department. I mean, we got gasoline, we got diesel, we got LP. We got solar, all those things. And 2 is 1, 1 is none. So, we're redundant in a lot of that stuff. Even if we didn't have any power at all, we're still fine. And this is why we prepare, especially for things like this. Now, I'm going to get in a little bit closer. It looks like the wind just picked up a little bit. So just look, there's a cautionary tale in all this. Look, no need to worry. Everything's fine. High atop Billy's Jungle Palace of Love, okay? So let me just tell you, after the storm rolled through yesterday, once we found out, we looked around like, okay, everything's fine. Everybody's kicking. Everybody's living. We don't have power. We don't have internet. We never have cell phone service out here anyway, so that's nothing new. We're like, okay, let's load up these chainsaws and we'll go to town, and then we'll bring some gas jugs, because at this point we have no idea what's going on or how bad it was or wasn't. So we go into Mars Hill, which is the nearest town to us. Go in there, I see people lined up all over the place at the gas station, and the gas station shut down. No power. Go up the street to where the grocery store is. There's a giant gas station there, and no power. People lined up. Got out, talked to some of them, and I said, you know, as I'm chit-chatting to some of them, they're like, man, I can't even go anywhere else to check and see if they got gas because I can't get up the road. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going up to Irwin, which is across the border in Tennessee, and I'll find out what's up. Only to get half the way up there, only to find out that highway patrolman spun us around and said, nope, got to go back. Can't get through. So long story short, the only way in and out of this entire region, there used to be I-40, and I say used to be I-40, going east and west, and then you had 26 technically goes east and west, but through here it goes north and south. Basically, there's only one way in, and that's coming up south from the areas that have already been devastated. So if you wanted to go get gas, what are you going to do? Drive down through the devastation to go get it? This is why we prepare, y'all. I'm not saying any of this to brag. I'm saying this is that it's a cautionary tale, because this thing gets a little bit hairier. So those same people I saw at the gas station, I'm like, okay, well, good luck to you. We'll see you around. Come back to the house. This morning we decide, okay, let's grab the chainsaws and everything else again. Anybody need some help? We're going to go see if we can lend a hand somewhere, since everything's squared away around here. Go back to the same gas station. The same people I saw yesterday are the same people I saw today. There were some police officers over there, and there's a ton of people over there. And the police officers said, hey, I asked, what about food and water? They're like, dude, we took all the food and water out of that Ingles, which is a grocery store around here, dropped it off at the shelter. And I said, what about these folks here? He says, I'll be honest with you, man, I don't think anybody's thought that far ahead. And I'm like, good night. So the same guy I spoke to the day before yesterday, same one I spoke to today. And of course the gas station is shut down. Now let me ask you, how long is it, do you think people are going to be there before they kick the doors in on that grocery store and go help themselves to what's on those shelves? I don't know. But I will tell you this, after we were done there and realized, okay, nothing's going on, let's drive through Asheville. We'll see if, you know, maybe there's a gas station out there. You know, we're good to go here, but we're like, we'll bring the gas cans anyway in case we come across something. Drive through Asheville. And I kid you not, y'all, looking off to the side of the river, there's a lot of businesses located alongside there. Every single one of them, absolutely every one of them, just laid waste. It looks, I mean, the only thing I can compare to it is when I was in that May 3rd tornado in Oklahoma, in Moore, Oklahoma. I was there for that. I walked out of Crossroads Mall, looked out there, and it looked like I was on another planet. That's how crazy it was. Well, that's the way it's looking right now in Asheville. So, yes, this is a disaster of biblical proportions. And it's awful that there's only one way in and out. But I can't help but think about the fact that, there's only one way in and out of here. Maybe if our troops weren't elsewhere, maybe we can get those guys over at Fort Bragg to sling load stuff to helicopters and maybe drop them down in the middle of Asheville, you know, some food and water for all those people that are suffering right there. Maybe they can do it in some of the surrounding areas. But oh, no, all of our troops are spread all over this planet. But I digress. Yeah, I see helicopters flying around, but I don't see any of them sling loading any supplies that could help anybody. Just observing the sights, huh? Anyway, driving along through Asheville, I'm getting myself together here, driving along through Asheville, we said, okay, at this time, we don't have any idea that I-40 either way is shut down. So we said, okay, we'll just head on out like we're heading on over to Hickory. We're driving that way. And meanwhile, traffic comes to a complete halt. Want to know why? Now, first of all, before I say what I'm about to say, I want to give a serious hat tip and a shout out to all you selfless first responders out there that are doing work that nobody else wants to do. Thank you for your service. But I don't thank all of you rubberneckers that literally parked, and I'm talking maybe 50 cars parked up alongside this bridge with their cell phones out. So if you're expecting me to do some of this gratuitous vulgarity that you see from other YouTube channels where you're expecting to see the devastation, look, I don't have any footage like that. I'm not, even if I did, I wouldn't show it to you. But you see all these rubberneckers standing on the edge of that bridge, laughing, pointing to one another. Ha, 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 ha. People are dead down there, and this is what we've become? This is what's important to you? Meanwhile, first responders can't get by on these choke points like bridges and stuff because you got idiots. Yes, you are idiots. You should be wrapped in the head with a tack hammer. That's how much of an idiot you are. You got idiots that are preventing these first responders, fire trucks, ambulances, police officers, you name it. Finally, we said, look, okay, we're not helping anybody. Obviously, there's nothing here to do. Let's just go ahead and get on the off-ramp. We're going to go back the other way once we saw what was happening. As we're on the off-ramp coming back, police are now on the bullhorn saying, get off the blankety-blank bridge. We can't get to people. And they aren't moving, or they're barely moving. And the people on the side of the road we were now driving back on, they weren't moving at all. They're going to wait for the cop to get around and turn back and tell them to move. I can't even believe this is what we've become. We are a society that knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. We celebrate the idiots and we castigate the intellectuals. We got people out there literally trying to save lives. And we got people rubbernecking on the side of the roads, preventing their emergency vehicles to get through. So I'm gonna get off that point before I get myself a little bit too upset. And I'm just gonna say, look, on another note, when you hear our podcast or anything else, look, we always talk about permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. Nobody in these hills, in fact, speaking to some of the locals down here that have lived here for generations, he said there is not even anything even close to what, there's not even a close second to the devastation that's just happened in this area. Nobody in living memory can ever cite anything like it. So, I'm just telling you, at all times, folks, be especially prepared. All those people at that gas station, would they have done well to have some water in the vehicle? Would they have done well to have maybe some emergency communication in their vehicles? Would they have done well to have some food in that vehicle? Or some of those folks I spoke to were not even from around here. They could have escaped. They could have gotten away, but they didn't. And now they're stuck at a gas station for who even knows how long. Hopefully we can help those folks out if need be. But, folks, we are living in weird times. And if you want to know just how weird, stay tuned to the podcast. I'm going to try to do it live. Hopefully later this week, if I still got some kind of signal, with Dane Wigington from Geoengineering Watch. And you're going to find out that a whole lot of anomalies just happened at exactly the same time this thing was going on. But that's...
Anyway, thought it'd be good to get somebody that we actually kind of know in this. And what do you think these people that were in those cars waiting at a dead gas station, if that gas station was to get a generator and get up and pumping gas, do you think those people in those cars will be able to pay for that gas?
how few people carry any cash around.
Yeah, probably not.
And you know, all your point of sale terminals are not going to be working. You know, they don't have internet, they don't have cell service, and probably won't for weeks.
So the other thing that I found interesting was that he is out driving around when there's no gas available. And I hear him say, we're driving around, we're trying to find people to help. But even the fact of there's no gas available and 2 days in a row, he's essentially, in my viewpoint, wasting gas. I told Bill, I would not be driving around. I would be at home until I absolutely needed to go out.
Yeah.
Right. So I was surprised that he's out driving around. I have friends I would probably check on, but I wouldn't just be driving into town to chat with people in line at the gas station.
Yeah. Don't disagree with that. But anyway, I just think that, you know, that's one thing you need to add to your preparations list is enough cash to take care of your business for the duration of the outage or whatever it is, which, you know, you have to decide how long that is, but I would say in general it should be at least 2 weeks, and I'd feel more comfortable with a couple of months myself. I mean, if you're driving an SUV or a full-size pickup, you know, you're going to need $100 just to, in normal times, just to fill that thing up. So you get to a pretty good chunk of money pretty quick there. So something to keep in mind. So it's got another short one here that is a couple of days later, and also wanted to bring up that nobody in the area that I've listened to has seen a FEMA person. All the help and rescue and providing food, water, sustenance is coming either from the local people or from the state government. Nothing from the federal government has showed up there yet.
So the thing I heard on the news was that they were relying on the churches.
Yeah, I know. Glenn Beck, you know, with his Mercury One, he's been sending a lot of stuff up there, and that's who he's using to do the distributions, because, you know, he figures they're there, they know what the needs are, and they'll be there afterwards. You know,
Who is he using?
the churches.
Gotcha.
So and this is, you know, this is like Billy Graham country too, by the way. And his son lives in that area. So yeah, a lot of big churches there, a lot of church folks.
I came across a clip of a man that his parents were in that area at some place in one of the areas, but up a mountainside that had very winding roads that had washed out, had part of the roads destroyed. And he got as close as he could, and it was 11 miles to his parents. And he had not heard from them, so he hiked in 11 miles to check on his parents. And he had a backpack. He had to take it off to be able to traverse through some of the trees that were down on the road. There's no telling when his parents are going to be able to leave their place. And without power, without the ability to pump water, up there, they're up in the mountains. Beautiful place, but it also has them very isolated and stranded. And he was at least middle age. it's kind of scary what the situation is going to be for a lot of people who don't have any skills to be able to take care of themselves in the long term.
Yeah, the verified death count is under 100 still, but they're suspecting that could easily go to 1,000 before it's all over.
But to hike in 11 miles, if you decided to go back up to take something, the best thing you could do is take a pack horse to carry supplies. What was it that Tammy, did you comment on what Brother White had posted on Circles?
About
people, somebody is going to fly stuff down to someplace in North Carolina to the closest airport.
That is so funny because right now, Sister Badger just now in the middle of this conversation has sent me a message saying is award gathering supplies for North Carolina. And so sorry, I was a little distracted, but he did mention that, but I don't remember if it was the Orange Airport or was it the Culpeper Airport.
Culpeper Airport.
Yeah, and that they were gathering things and they were going to fly them out Saturday night and fly them down. And I don't know who they are. I don't know if it's a local organization or just some sweet person with multiple airplanes that can make that happen. But he had posted something like that on Circles.
But what the other end of it is there are people who are going to meet that airplane and they're going to pack it out. They're going to have to pack it out to people because there's no roads to be able to carry it in. I would really think that pack horses would be something definitely needed at this point.
Yeah, but if they're not there, you won't get them there.
No.
I was wondering what kind of plane that was because, I mean, most of the little private planes you got won't carry squat compared to what I think he's going to get, show up to.
Right.
He may be doing multiple trips.
And I was also a little concerned about him leaving at 6 o'clock in the evening, which means he's going to get down there at dark or after dark, and assuming he gets off on time, and probably to an airfield that doesn't have lights.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky.
I was a little concerned for him. So, anyway, let's play this other one because this is a day or two later when some more things have happened.
From the calamity in western North Carolina. Well, anybody that lives through things like this, you will ultimately, if you're even a little bit of a thinking person, you're going to say, okay, these are the things I got right, and these are the things that need profound improvement. Now, in my place, there's a whole lot of gaping holes that I'm not going to discuss right here in an open forum. I'll probably do it in the podcast, definitely at some point, and definitely cover most of it on Patreon. But, yeah, just to kind of cover everything, we're still without power. But strangely enough, we have the internet. I'd like to know how that happens when you go out there and look at the distribution lines on your pole. The one at the bottom, the black wire at the bottom. In this case here, I'm looking at it right now. That's our fiber optics. So we have fiber all the way up to this house. But I'd like to know if the fiber is intact, why aren't the electrical lines intact? So, yeah, I'd like to know how all that's working. Because there's not a single pole around here that's down, but, somehow we don't have power. But, I mean, at least on this area where I live, but the road all the way up to here, everybody has power. But we can stay up here for a long, long time. So one thing I do want to point out, folks, is that you can't rely or trust anybody in your government. If you want a real laugh, if it weren't so doggone tragic, listen to the NPR reports of when this whole thing started kicking off. They're covering national headlines and, they're talking about trans testicles in this part of the country. They're talking about everything but what locally is unfolding, this calamity that was unfolding at the same time. And then apparently they had enough complaints about it where they decided, oh, maybe we better put reporters on the ground. But even then, it's still a little bit crazy. Now, granted, Asheville is not the biggest city in the world, but, you know, that's where the NPR station is located. And then when they do this is a good one. If you want like I said, it would almost be laughable if it weren't so doggone tragic. But listen to the city updates. I'm saying all this to tell you folks, don't rely on anybody in government, because all these DEI hires are painfully obvious every time you listen to an update from somebody who's somewhere in the city management. They all have these crazy titles or whatever. And then they get these guys in here. This one brother, I don't know. I mean, he sounded like he came from Death Row Records. It was like, yeah, well, they finna get it back up. You know, it is what it is. And then they talked to another DEI hire, I'm guessing, from, I don't know for sure, but I want to say Franklin County. She gets on there and she says, literally, we ain't got no updates. In the whole county, nobody's got any updates. I'm like, where do we go from here? What do we do? We make Snoop Dogg the mayor? You know, hey, y'all, this is a real tragedy. I can't get home to my Cavassier and my smoke. You know, but it do what it do. I mean, is this where we're going with this? I mean, I'm sitting here listening to these press conferences, and either it's like you got one side of the spectrum where, like I said, it sounds like somebody that came out of the rap community, and then you got the other end of the spectrum where it seems like somebody that was in the cast of the Apple Dumpling Gang with Don Knotts. This is like the biggest grabastic piece of disorganized amphibian caca I've ever seen in my life. And these are the people we put in charge. And I want to give R. Lee Ermey, the late R. Lee Ermey, a shout out for that little line. But these are the people that are in charge. Folks, if you think for a minute that you can rely on any of these nincompoops, and that's what most of them are. Every time I'm sitting here listening to this press conference, and I'm in there like, I'm like, good night, man. I can't believe people are relying on these folks. Folks, at the end of the day, you got to be you and the circle, your mutual assistance group. And if you're not a part of one right now, and you're in one of the unaffected areas right now, you might want to be thinking about doing one, because let me tell you something. One of the biggest allures of people that move to this area and have moved to this area from a preparedness standpoint is the fact that the weather is fantastic nearly all year long. In fact, if you watch my videos, all through the summer, I'm wearing a t-shirt. Most of the winter, I'm wearing a t-shirt. Of course, I'm on a south-facing slope. But the weather is very, very pleasant here. Now, some of the people that are from here think these winters are awful. Got news for you. Go try it in Nebraska and Kansas for a while. They think the summers are hot. Well, I got news for you. Go try Texas for a while. It's not hot. It's not cold. The weather is just perfect here. And it's very, very, it's a temperate rainforest. These things don't happen here. They don't typically happen here. And that's part of the allure why so many people that are into preparedness and permaculture and practical living, why they come to this place. And it happened here. So the idea is, if you take nothing else away from this video, start your mutual assistance groups right now. Get that coalition of the willing, of people that are actual doers, not talkers. People that are actual doers, and put your communities together now. Don't wait until disaster strikes and then worry about, oh, gee, what are we going to do now? How do we make this unfold? You know what? Take time. Turn your power off for a weekend and find out where the holes are in your game. Because truthfully, I mean, there's nothing that's catastrophic, but honestly, I'm seeing holes in my game. And this is a person, I've been at this for over 20 years. And I'm seeing holes in my game that honestly, I will fix. Sadly, during times like this, everybody says, oh, I'm never going to find myself in this position again. Well, 9 times out of 10, the power comes back on. They get busy with life. Other things take over. And you forget about it. Well, y'all, use this. Use what's unfolding right now, because it is an ongoing disaster. In fact, if you want to find out just how brain dead some people are, Michelle and I are out doing, let's call it wellness checks today. True story. This just happened hours ago. We're going around checking on some folks. Never met them before. Just kind of going door to door around here. And Michelle goes up to the door, and of course I got the truck right there, and I can hear everything. And she goes up, old timer answers, and says, she says, "Look, hey, do y'all have what you need? Do you have food? Do you have water?" He says, "Well, I'm having to go over to the well and get it out by hand. But food, yeah, I got the old lady going down. She's going in Tennessee to go get some food if she can find it." And I'm over here thinking, well, why didn't you go? Anyway, he goes on to say, "Look, y'all, you know who won the Pittsburgh game yesterday? I stood there slack-jawed and stymied. The dude ain't got no water. I mean, it's not coming through the tap anyway. You got no power, and he's worried about what happened in the Pittsburgh game. Clearly not your best candidate to put in your mutual assistance group, if you know what I'm talking about." Folks, yeah, I'm giving you one of many examples I can provide, but I'm saying, at the end of the day, look, there's some people that would be more willing to die in place than to bust a move and, to do something worthwhile during this time. Don't be one of those people. Set up your mutual assistance groups right now, especially in all the places that aren't affected. Now, keep in mind, hopefully the internet is spotty around here. It was working great until I decided to record something. But, folks, mark it on your calendar. Hopefully, I'm going to try to do this live with Dane Wigington from geoengineeringwatch.org. That's going to be live on Wednesday, I think about 11 o'clock or so Eastern.
Okay. So, stop sharing. Anyway, I thought it was interesting about how different people react to it, and I think my big takeaway on this was don't be sitting around waiting for FEMA to come solve your problems, because you may die sitting holding on to the steering wheel. Anybody else got any comments or things that we should have on our list for a winter power outage?
Well, so I mean, he's talking about there's cell phone towers down and you can't do this and you can't do that. So we as a ward family, how do we check on each other? I mean, I was telling Bill, maybe it's time to fix up our bicycles so that we can bike over to the Amberns or bike over to the Apples or bike over to the Reynolds and see how they're doing. But I mean, truly, as a ward family, how do we solve that?
We used to have a plan for that, back I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. So, but as far as I know, we don't have any such thing nowadays.
So maybe somebody on the ward council could bring that up. Did she already power down?
She didn't have her microphone on anymore, apparently.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. But I refuse to take any responsibility on that one, because all I did was text the bishop, "Hey, the building usually is broadcasting. The missionaries are there, their friends are there, and sometimes there are some single people or other people that anyway, it's usually broadcast with a pot. Anyway, and then I got put in charge of the whole thing. Really?
Yeah, Liz. What you should have done was don't shoot the messenger, find somebody else and deflect it off of you.
You can just write a note, fold it up, leave it on the middle of the floor of the ward council when you're having that, and you just come in last, and somebody else will.
Yeah, but that was in Sacrament, as Brother Graff had already announced. There won't be anything going on here. Yes, there will be. Normally there is. Don't. Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of hesitant to suggest anything at this point.
So I'm happy to write an anonymous note and mail it to the bishop.
Yeah. I'll let you do that.
But yeah, we
Yeah,
used
but Charlie, if we fall into the category of are you your brother's keepers, then even though there's only 3 or 4 of us on this meeting most nights, uh, I need to know how to reach out. I need to know, right?
Well,
I've
and
got people on
there's
my
another
ministering list that are far, far, far away from me.
there's another big issue. When we used to have it set up, they had you calling somebody that you were outside of their district because you